Good morning, Ohio. James Ernest of the Grueling Truth Radio Network here with Alex Chamberlain, professional wrestler. Alex, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
What sports did you play growing up?
I was into Taekwondo, baseball, and football, and I mostly pursued football all the way from grade school up into high school, and then got into amateur wrestling in high school.
Excellent. So with that, did you end up going anywhere for football or wrestling for college?
I had a couple options for scholarship in football to New Hampshire, but I really wanted to pursue pro wrestling at that point, so I was kind of all in, in high school. That's when I was training for pro wrestling, so that was really kind of more my drive. College is more a backup to keep my parents happy from freaking out from pursuing a job in entertainment.
I know what you mean, yeah, because if you're going to tell them, yeah, that's what I want to be when I grow up, they're like, well, when do you plan on growing up,
Yeah, exactly.
So when did you fall in love with professional wrestling?
As a fan, it's as long as I can remember, honestly. My parents were both big pro wrestling fans. My mom loved more the older 80s style. She was a huge fan of Ivan Putski, Polish Power. My dad really was a huge Scott Hall fan, when he was doing Razor Ramon. So literally some of my earliest memories are of wrestling. I can remember watching the, earlier WrestleManias. I remember, everyone from basically 5 on, because my aunt always rented the pay-per-views. So we always get together with family for SummerSlam and WrestleMania and Survivor Series. And then from there, it just kind of grew into, becoming a bigger fan during the Attitude Era. And then it was in the year 2000. It was Royal Rumble 2000 at Madison Square Garden. That was probably... It was 2000. It was 99, 2000. So I was probably 13 or 14 years old around that time, and then that's when I saw the Triple H versus Cactus Jack match, and that was the match where I was like, I want to be a pro wrestler. That's when I knew that's what I wanted to do for a career. That
is awesome to hear about a family that really enjoys spending time together and enjoying professional wrestling together.
Oh yeah, it was a big family event always.
So what type of trainer was Bob Evans?
Bob was awesome. Bob was really good at kind of opening up my mind to the logic of wrestling. The early intro psychology. He was the kind of guy that when you go to do a lockup, he would ask you why do you do a lockup? And a lot of guys even now don't know why. Why do you do a lockup? Why do you do a drop down? What is the intended purpose of that? People do it just to do it. They don't really understand the reason behind it. So he was really critical for me to get that sort of critical thinking in my head of thinking. It was a term that I believe Dr. Tom Pritchard would always coin, and he worked a lot with Bob, and I used to go to his camps as well in the early days, and it was always think, shoot, but work, meaning that treat it like a real fight, but, protect your opponent, and that always really resonated with me to trying to define myself as a more realistic-looking wrestler, so that was a huge part of Bob. It was really getting me to think critically about wrestling.
I know what you mean. That has really kind of come to light of late in some promotions where some of the moves don't seem to be to win. They seem to be more for choreograph purposes.
Right, they're just for show, as opposed to, really, if you want to break wrestling down to its most base form, it's gladiator combat. You're literally trying to give your opponent a concussion, break a limb, or at least stretch that limb enough where you injure the guy enough where he wants to quit, or you knock him out and you can cover him for 3 seconds. I mean, the whole point of this sport technically is to injure your opponent enough to win. If you think about it, it's the most base form of what wrestling is as entertainment. It's gladiator pit,
Exactly. We recently actually had Dr. Tom on the show. He was great. Talked about
he's awesome.
And just real informative. It was really nice.
Yeah, he's awesome. He really kind of got me into the whole pursuing fitness, kind of getting into the whole element of wrestling is, a fitness industry. You got to look good, and I can honestly say he gave me some really great feedback early on in my career that really stuck with me.
So when did you attend Bob's school?
That was had to be, I was in high school, so it was like around anywhere from 2000, late 2002, definitely during 2003 and 2004 is when I was going to Bob's. And I basically, from there, I went with him until I moved down to Florida, I think. And I moved to Florida in '08 to finish my training and to kind of get like that finalized training with Jimmy Snuka.
Wow, awesome.
Yep. Yep.
Is there anybody that we would have known that trained with you at Bob's or at Snuka's?
Yeah, Bob's, that was guys like Mike Bennett. He was there at the time. Let me see. Guys, I'm trying to think. Jared Ganem, he's a producer now. He produces a lot of shows. He's actually done a couple things for Ring of Honor, and he was our producer at Paragon Pro Wrestling in Vegas. He moved more. He was a great wrestler, actually, in the Northeast. He was really good. He just really fell in love with production. Mike Bennett was the big one. Really, out of that class of guys, that I remember at that school, I think him and I are like the only two left that are still actively doing it on the road. I might be mistaken. I mean, I honestly have a terrible memory, but I think we're the last two that are from that class that are still doing it, that I know of, that aren't in like production or backstage roles in wrestling.
We've had
because guys like Mikaze, he didn't train at Bob's, but he was always around, and he's like the number one gear maker for WWE right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a good dude. I've known him since I was in high school as well. So, but yeah, there's still some guys in wrestling. I think the only guys still active in wrestling are me and Mike Bennett from that class.
We've had a lot of MLW people on. I understand you tagged with Alex Hammerstone?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was actually some of the most fun I had in wrestling, was tagging with Hammer. That was when he was a few years in. They wanted to pair him with me, since they kind of wanted me to like just try to show him a little bit more. Just try to basically like work with him on just trying to make him more comfortable talking, things like that, because he hadn't really had a chance to work on TV before. So it was like trying to impart whatever knowledge I could have and try to work with him, and just trying to give each other advice. So that was actually a lot of fun, because for both of us, we were able to find some really good. We found our voice, and in wrestling, that's like your tone in which you want to talk, and finding your way to give your promo. And for both of us, we actually learned a lot from working with each other, because it was a lot more relaxing. We actually had like very cohesive personalities, and we had a lot of fun with that. It was some of my most fun stuff was working with him.
Any funny stories that come to mind?
I mean, some of the promos we would come up with were ridiculous. We would just do some really we would just try to make ourselves laugh, but also at the same time, be the most obnoxious guys. The cool thing about Paragon, it wasn't like a crazy madhouse. Like, they actually had a really, really well run place. So I mean, it was more like not crazy stories, just really good times. There was just a lot of camaraderie, some great dinners, hanging out, because where we stayed was the same place where the venue was. So I mean, you shoot your show with the guys all day, then you roll into the bar and restaurant afterwards and just hang out, and that was a lot of fun. It was like the camaraderie was the best part of Paragon out there in Vegas.
If you were to join MLW, would you want to be in the Dynasty, or would you want to fight against him?
I want to join them. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like they have the between Richard and Holiday and Alex. I mean, the potential there is phenomenal. I mean, that's a lot of money on the table right there between those two guys, and so I would definitely love to be a part of that group. I mean, his Hammer and I go way back, so I would definitely want to team up with my friend again for sure. So
is Gangrel scary in real life?
Absolutely not. He is in the ring, absolutely. But once the bell's rung and he's in normal mode, now he's the nicest guy. He's been a great mentor for me, a great piece of great at giving advice, really kind of helping me along the way. He really built what I am as a wrestler today, in terms of focusing more on the realism and intensity, and because that's really where he made his mark, was his intensity, and I just really tried to mirror what he brought to the table, just being that super crazy rugged pit fighter kind of deal. And no, he'll give you the shirt off his back. He is an incredible teacher. He's just so real. He doesn't pull punches. He's very honest, and I just can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's had such a phenomenal career. He's taught so so many people. I mean, obviously,
Yes.
when people think of, they think of course, him and the Hardys. They think of him and Edge and Christian.
Yep.
But he's taught so many other students over the years as well.
Oh yeah.
Who are some of the people that train with you all down there?
Down there right now, I think he's got like something like almost 50 students. So he's got some really awesome prospects down there. This one guy, Lakai, he's from Haiti. Man, this kid's he's an athlete. Man, this guy is he's going to be good. I kind of liken him. He's going to be the second coming of Ron Simmons, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's powerful. He's got the personality. He's got the drive. He's got the discipline. He's got the physique. I mean, he really is going to be something really good. He's got some incredibly gifted women. He's got the Lucero twins. They're identical twins from Colombia. They're really good. Very young, but they're really taking to it. You got Anna Diaz, his women's champion. She's really young, but she's got a brilliant mind for wrestling. She actually helps him book most of the shows that he runs. She's just one of those girls that just understands the booking process, which is cool. And not even just wrestling. I mean, he's got, for commentator and announcer, Blake Chadwick, who's, in my opinion, one of the best guys in the business in terms of non-contracted on-air personalities. He's one of those guys I think once he gets his shot, he's gonna be right up there with guys like Justin Roberts and Finkel and those guys. He's actually really good and very versatile at play-by-play and announcing.
Oh wow, that's some huge praise there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be put with those names, wow.
He's good. He's really good. He's so educated. He really knows like the art of commentary and in-ring announcing is a lost art. It really is, and it helps to a show. It absolutely does. You got to have that voice. You got to be able to keep the fans' attention. You got to keep the conversation moving. He's very well versed in sports. I just love the way he does his commentary from more of like that sports-based action style. It just sounds really authentic. I really like it. It's like, and he keeps a really good pace that keeps your attention the whole time.
So how did you get your foot in the door with AEW?
I actually did a taping for them here in Miami in January, and that was like my first time meeting everyone. And that from there was basically just keeping in touch with them. I probably would have been I was going to be brought in a lot earlier, but then COVID hit. So that really kind of delayed everything. They had a couple group of guys from the indies that they were going to use for tapings and whatnot. The guys they could get tested, and they would keep those 10 guys tested. And being from Miami, I was the furthest out, so I wasn't able to get in right away. But they always had me in the back of their mind. They wanted to bring me in once they had like their testing program down, the way they were going to do all their screenings for everyone. So as soon as that was good, they called me up and they're like, "Hey, you want to do a match?" And from there, that was the ball rolling.
And that's one of the great things I like about them is I understand they're very open-minded when it comes to performers performing in other leagues.
Yes. Yeah, they really are supportive of the independents because that's really where you get your feet wet in wrestling, and that's really where you develop. It's and it's a good way to let guys get their seasoning out there, and it's a great investment for them in the long term because if they use these guys on their TV, they establish them, give them a little credence for national exposure. They go on the independents, become a big name, they blow up, they can come back, and now they're an established name with experience, and they're ready to go. I mean, it's a great footprint for developing future stars.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, I just like the fact that it's collaborative. I mean, for example, one of their big top stars, Brian Cage, is doing an event in Texas. It's a 2-day event. I'm trying to remember. It's like the Independent Super Bowl, basically.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, any of the W Wrestling Federation, they would flip out if someone.
Oh
yeah. Like, no, we can't do something with them. We got to do it's all us or nothing.
AEW is definitely not threatened by anybody working somewhere else. They definitely aren't. They're very confident. They know their product. They know what they want to do. They know what they want to be. So they're not necessarily threatened by anybody going out there and trying to make themselves better or get themselves some extra work. I mean, for them, it's a good investment. It just diversifies their fan base and more people. AEW. It's smart.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, your match the other night on Tuesday on AEW Dark, what would you rank it?
For me personally, I I felt like I hit a home run in terms of like getting everything I needed to do over. So I mean, for me, it was a 10. I mean, granted, it's a 6-minute match. It's very, it's a very short amount of time to basically introduce yourself and get yourself over in a very, in a very limited role. But I feel like I nailed what I needed to do, and the feedback nationally has been fantastic. It's been really good for all my social media's blown up. I was on the front page of Reddit for the Squared Circle subreddit, which is a big page. It has 500,000 people following it. It was just, for me, it was really good, and the feedback's been nothing but positive. So I got guys from AEW messaging me, telling me it was a great job, really good selling. Nice to see someone who brings the realism and selling to the forefront. So that for me was like a really kind of a proud moment when I'm getting those kind of messages from my peers.
That is awesome. And the best part is, of course, you said 10. So, you're going up against Sean Spears.
Oh, it's ironic, yeah. No pun intended, yeah.
Oh, what was the experience like? I mean, take us through the match.
Sure. Obviously, your first time going out, you're a bundle of nerves, but I always am. Even after 17 years of wrestling, I'm still getting nervous before matches because it's a personal pride at this point, professional pride, that you want to go out there and give your best showing possible. And, you have a lot of eyes watching to see what you bring to the table. So, but I'm one of those types that I love the pressure. I love that that feeling. And as soon as I go through the curtain or through the tunnel, that's when my brain just kind of clicks on. And then from there it's go time. And I'm in this really good heightened state. I can process everything. I'm seeing, hearing, just kind of I'm very much in the moment. So that was the cool thing. I remember thinking, halfway through the match, actually, really enough, I had deja vu like halfway through the match. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh, weird. I'm having a weird bit of deja vu right now, then going back into the ring and finishing it up. So I actually had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Sean Spears is a phenomenal wrestler. He's so good. He's kind of like their gatekeeper. I feel like that he's the guy that they're like, all right, we're going to test you out, and if you can have if Sean thinks you got it, then you got it, and if you don't, then you don't. So he's that guy. He's that good. He's that experienced, and it was definitely a pleasure to work with him.
We were talking about wrestling schools earlier. Speaking of schools, Sean's got a great school.
Yes, he does. Yes. Yeah, he's a great teacher. He really gets obviously a guy who's been experienced as he is on television and making a name for himself in NXT and becoming a huge product. He really knows his stuff, and I think those are the kind of guys you really want to learn from. The guys who made it, the guys who've been there, who've done that. Those are the best kind of teachers, and he's really good. He's so well versatile in everything from promo to in-ring to the detail work to making everything look good, timing. So, there's really no other better kind of teacher that you can have is guys like him. So
did Tully Blanchard say anything to you?
Yeah, Tully was very happy with the match. He said it was really good. There was nothing wrong with it. He said, great selling, really good work. That right there for me personally, those are the kind of comments from the guys who kind of set the bar before me. If they're saying I'm pulling it off, having a great match, then that's awesome for me. Like I could walk away and be like, man, Tully, the Flower match is good, man. That put me off. That was good for the night right there. I was like, yep, there we go. Tully Blanchard liked my match.
If you could wrestle anyone in AEW, who would it be?
Scorpio Sky would be my first. He's one of my best friends. I've had a match with him before. I've only had one other match with him before, and we tore the house down. We barely talked anything out beforehand. Him and I just clicked really well. The other one would be Chris Jericho, because that's one of my heroes growing up. Is Jericho is the top of my want to work with in terms of legends of wrestling. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and being one of my heroes growing up, he's definitely going to be one guy I have to get in the ring with.
Yeah, I agree with you. Both excellent choices. Scorpio Sky is probably currently one of the best in the world today. And,
hands down, yep.
Yeah, and then Jericho, like you said, he's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer, even though he may not ever go into that Hall of Fame because they're mad at him. Whatever. He's still a Hall of Famer.
Wounds. They won't be able to. They can't deny him how much of an impact he has on wrestling. He'll definitely go in at some point. It just won't be anytime soon. Not within the next 5 years, anyways.
Exactly.
As long as his deal's out there, yeah.
Exactly. In worst case scenario, we can always go into the, what is it? I forget all the initials for it. It's the International Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. There's other Hall of Fames, too.
Yeah.
The Danny Hodge one and all that, yeah.
Exactly. So there's options. So who would you like to partner with?
Actually, you know what? Ricky Starks would actually be a guy I'd love to partner with. It's feel like it kind of be cool. Like I like his vibe. I like the product he brings, and it would kind of be fun to be like, you know, two relatively decent looking guys tagging up. It'd be like, you know, that right there is kind of marketable in and of itself. Having two good looking guys who have got the look, the physique, the ability to talk. I think we'd be able to play off each other personality wise. He'd be a guy I'd really like to tag with. Also, Cage too. Cage has been a good friend of mine for years. That'd be a kind of a really fun powerhouse style of tag team that you really don't see anymore. Like very more Road Warrior-esque, you know.
Yeah, actually, yeah. When you said would you with Cage, it kind of makes me think of Pretty Wonderful. What was it? Power and Glory.
Power and Glory, yeah. That was that
Hercules and Orndorff.
Yeah.
Or not Orndorff, and Romo.
Roma and Orndorff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I had Romo on a while back, and I mean, gosh, yeah, that was such a great, and it was so funny because he refused to let Hercules lose. He's like, no, Hercules, you're the star of the team. You're the you're the power guy. If someone has to be pinned, it's me. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. If you know, like that's the thing about wrestling. Like know your worth and know where you are and know what your job is. You know what I mean? And that's a really important thing for guys to have. Is like if you know what you're doing, and there's no reason to be job skip. There's no reason to try to be protective or prevent other guys from getting work because if you're secure in your work and you know your job and you do it the best. I mean, look at guys like Christian. Christian is one of the best wrestlers to ever wrestle, period. And he was the carpenter. He made everyone look good, and he had a job forever. And then, yes, he finally got his comeuppance with like TNA, become a world champion. People will recognize, the work you put in eventually. The cream does rise to the top.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a great example. Kofi Kingston, different people like that.
Kofi. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
That had earned their way and just, like you said, had great matches for so many years and finally got what they deserve.
So yeah, the hard work does pay off. It just sometimes doesn't happen right away, and so you got to be patient with wrestling. It's better to have a job than be unemployed.
So the important question, though, have you ever been is it depressed, lonely, and feel like no one else cares about you because you're ready for the group I was going? I almost said the New World Order, but that's not it. The Dark Order.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, any thoughts about joining them at any point? I think you might be an interesting fit there because they're always looking for more name wrestlers.
Yeah, Dark Order would be a lot of fun, actually. I actually really love Uno and Stu's work. They're really good. I mean, and you're starting to see that work now, like why the Smash Brothers were so good in PWG. Same thing with Reynolds and Silver, another two really good tag teams that are coming out of that. Dark Order is really kind of coming into its own. I think people didn't understand what they were trying to do in the beginning because they were relatively, not to say they were unknown, but they were known in their markets. So they were really known, like Silver and Reynolds, really popular in the Northeast. Smash Brothers, Uno and Grayson, super popular in Canada, really popular in California, but not necessarily nationally known. And now people are understanding like why they signed these guys and why they're so good. These are guys that work really well together. So it would kind of be fun to come into that group and kind of be one of the heavies. That'd be one next to Brody, be the biggest guy on the roster there for the Dark Order. So it'd be really fun I love that collaborative process of working in a group. There's a lot more ability to bang out really creative ideas. So weirdly enough, I went to school. My degree in college was in criminal justice with a focus on cult and serial homicide. So I actually have literally a ton of books on the cult mentality, and my college thesis is on the Manson family. So that whole group think is actually something I'm pretty well educated in. Weirdly enough, yeah.
That'd be awesome. I was going to say, like you said, with the background. Now, the thing I like about it is how they gradually built it. It wasn't kind of an overnight thing. It wasn't like they just said, bam, these guys, there's 50 of us. No, they kind of gradually added people, and it's really developed and thrown the story out.
Yeah, no, they've been patient with it and they're growing it, and now it's starting to catch on with people. They're starting to really respect the work these guys are putting in, and I see so much potential with that. Down the line, that that kind of belief system hasn't really been done properly in wrestling. These guys are starting to really tell that story in a positive way. So I think people are going to come around on it heavily.
So what's currently the best thing in professional wrestling? So what's currently the best thing in professional wrestling? Did I hit a button?
Make sure. Did I lose you there?
Oh, yeah, for a second.
Oh.
Yeah, I said,
no, sorry.
So no worries. So what's currently the best thing in professional wrestling?
The best thing in terms of person or
just in your opinion, what do you like about professional wrestling currently?
Me personally, I love the production end of wrestling. I love the storytelling that goes with it. I love being able to see a story unfold. That's really what drives me in any match I do or any program I work in. Is what's the story we can tell and can people understand it? That's always been my favorite part of pro wrestling. That's why I'm really digging what AEW is doing, because it's not just a team of creative writers and a creative team and writers who've never wrestled a day in their life, have never been into wrestling. These kids, these are people from college or from Hollywood who don't know what it's like to be in there. Whereas in AEW it's very different. It's they understand wrestling and they're trying to tell that story and be collaborative with the wrestlers too. So that's a huge part why I think AEW is catching on so well and starting to really give WWE a run for their money.
I agree with you. I think it's a top-notch organization. They're doing a lot of right things. They're bringing in talent. They're doing the things that are going to help to improve the wrestling landscape.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, that is a new question I've started asking people. What's the best thing about professional wrestling right now? Because I want a palate cleanser from listening to. There's another show out there, and it seems like every time I turn it on, it's always the negative aspects about wrestling, and they never talk about the positives. So that's what I want to do. Is I want to talk about the fun aspect of wrestling, the enjoyable part about it. Because why in the heck watch it if you don't like it?
Well, the thing is, too, is that people have to remember is that wrestling is very subjective. It's personal opinion. Like, what gets over is what gets over. If it gets over, whether you like it or not, it's good. It can be something you absolutely hate, but if people are buying the guy's shirts and they're buying tickets to see him and they're chanting his name or her name and it's getting over, then it's over. It's good. It's good. I mean, it's like movies. Everyone has a favorite style of movie. Some people like Star Wars. Some people like Star Trek. Doesn't mean either one's bad. It just means it's a different taste. So that's the thing about wrestling, is that there really isn't a negative. It's just different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. So, Alex, before we let you go, any events you got coming up? Any things you want to promote or talk up?
I mean, wrestling-wise, it's kind of hit or miss right now. Everything I've gotten for bookings is like 2 weeks out, 1 week out. I have a lot of bookings coming up in the fall and going into winter. I'm actually pretty much booked up solid. Right now, no, I just really trying to stay active on my social media, keep in touch with AEW and any other wrestling organizations that are trying to book me for future shows when they start rolling back in. It's a weird time for wrestling right now, where it's like there are a couple shows running here and there, but it's few and far between, and they're pretty much only using like their the localized state guys because it's easier to test and whatnot. So I'm just waiting for when wrestling kind of comes back in full steam, and I'll be with getting this kind of coverage from AEW. It really helps fill my booking sheet, so I've been very thankful for that. So just keep in touch with my social media. That's really how I'm going to be posting my future bookings. So it's the Alex Chamberlain on Instagram and Facebook, and Chamberlain_MC on Twitter.
Sounds great, Alex. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.